aren't they? God, I've got to take this phone off talking about that. Sure, God, so much.
Peg, what was it like growing up in the general drapery shop?
Well, I was born there. My dad was a draper who'd come back from America and set up a drapery business in Cahir way back in the, God, what years have I forgotten, but anyway. And I have one brother and 3 sisters, and we grew up on the side of the street, and it was a very nice, easy place to grow up in. Lots of neighbours, the Sampsons and the Caplices, and we were all of an age, so there was always gangs of children in every house. But we had a general drapery business consisting of men's, women's and children's, and we supplied materials for, the men would come in to be measured for suits, and we'd supply the materials and take them to the tailor, and they'd be made up. And then we had very nice ladies wear, and we sold hats and things, and we had, the back of the shop was called the millinery, where people went to try on all, there was lots of big mirrors, and it was nice and bright, and the ladies always fitted on their coats and hats and their style, and then if the coat was too long, we'd shorten it, and we'd renovate it and do all those kind of things. But it was very busy. It was very busy. We had people working there as well as ourselves. But it was a time when people didn't have a lot of money, so a lot of families would come and shop for First Communion confirmation, and they wouldn't have the money, so they would be paying in advance sometimes and build up a little bit of credit, and the money we'd pay for them when they'd come and collect their materials, and they'd pay for them or not. If they didn't have the money, they could pay for it when they did have the money. It was just a time where there was, everybody shopped in Cahir, and you knew everybody, and you knew your customers, and it was just a very nice time to grow up. So, what next would you like to know?
Where did you get your materials?
We had, we used to go to Art Finnan woolen mills down the road, where they made all these lovely tweeds and things. We used to buy materials there, and then we'd had suppliers from Cork and Dublin, Limerick, no, mostly Limerick and Cork, and in those times there used to be what was known as a traveller. Now a traveller today is a different story, but these were, men would come with a big van, and he'd come on a Monday morning, and he'd be in and out of the shop all day bringing in samples of shoes, boots, jumpers, trousers, anything, and you'd buy what you wanted from him, or you'd order what you wanted for him. It was a big day. That was a big day, and if we were good, when we were little, he used to give us 6pence, which was a huge lot of money those days, as a treat when we were children, before we were at the working stage. But it was.
Could you tell us about the Corpus Christi procession?
Right, the Corpus Christi procession was held every year at Corpus Christi, which was early June. We always seem to have very fine weather. Whether that is fact or fiction, I'm not too sure, but it always seemed to be very warm and sunny. And the whole town would have to prepare for this procession. All the streets would have buntings across, and all the routes of the procession, which usually would go from the church maybe down Castle Street, back up as far as the station possibly, and back down again, and then there'd be all the houses on all the streets would be decorated. All the windows would have statues and flowers, and outside the house you'd have big pots of flowers, and every place was decorated. And then we'd had benediction. There was always some men used to carry this canopy, and the Blessed Sacrament was carried, the priest carried it from the church on the procession, and there used to be 8 men carrying this canopy over the priest thing. And they'd have an altar erected on the square where Fleury's was now. It used to be Mulcahy's then. There was a big archway there, and there was a lovely, beautiful altar put up there. And then the procession would come, and it stopped there, and you'd have benediction, and the whole town would be closed off, no traffic, no anything, and people would be standing or kneeling, and sometimes the tar was so hot that the tar would be melting under your feet. But then you went after the benediction, and you came up around Old Church Street and back down Market Street here and back down and back to the church. And it was, we had the brass band always leading the procession, and then we had the men's sedality and the women's sedality. Is that the right word? It is. The men walked together and the women walked together, and they had a banner, and then the children walked together, and all the different, the Legion of Mary and the Children of Mary, they all walked in groups, you know, and the whole town was lined with people, like anybody, with people with prams and children that couldn't walk in the procession. They all came out to partake in it, you know, and join in.
What did the Children of Mary wear?
They wore blue cloaks and a white veil and a blue ribbon with the big medal on it, you know, and not a lot of people joined it. We kind of automatically joined it when you went to secondary school. You automatically joined it, you know. So and the First Communion children were always had a special section in that Corpus Christi procession. It was their chance to wear their dresses for another outing, and they were very important. And they'd have flowers. Used to strew the little petals of the flowers in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and it was a big day. It was lovely.
What type of games did you play in Cahir?
We played a lot of tennis mostly. I played myself, but we had a lot of tennis. We had a nice tennis court, and we had a great group, and we played. Then we used to play camogie, and we played rounders in the park, and then we all went to the river to swim as youngsters, boys and girls, and we were all very well behaved. Went off up to the river, and everybody learned to swim, and the boys went in one place and the girls would go in another place, and we always seemed to have lovely summers to do all these things, but we seemed to spend an awful lot of time. But then we had lovely time with the tennis as we got older, and you know, we used to go and we'd have a tournament, like we used to go to Clonmel, and we'd go to Banch, and we'd go to Tipperary and Ardfin and all the smaller, and then we'd go to them on a Sunday, and we'd have great fun, and then they'd make tea and sandwiches, and we'd have a bit of a dance, and then the following Sunday we'd have them back in Cahir. That went on the whole summer, you know. Again, very few cars. There might be 2 cars and about 12 in the cars, you know, hanging out the doors. There was no safety belts or no things like that. It was just very casual and easy.
Did you go to dance halls?
Yes, we did. We went, well, the parochial hall as it was in those days. We started out there as at the Cayley's, and I had a very strict dad. We were 60, my sister was older than me, and at 12 o'clock it didn't matter what you were doing or who you were dancing with. He'd march down, he'd stand inside the door, and he'd say, "Mary, Peg, we have to down tools and go home." Wouldn't happen today, but anyway. And then Cahir House used to have some very nice dinner dances in those days, where we dressed up in our evening dresses and our things, and great occasions, putting on the glamour, getting all dressed up. And then we had the Galty Hotel was another place then. That had opened as a nice ballroom, and with some very famous orchestras came to Cahir in those days. There was Victor Sylvester and Joe Lewis, I think it was, but they were lovely, and all the dances were, there was no drink at dances in our day. You went, and the dances would be from 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock, and they had a mineral bar where you bought a bottle of lemonade. Some lad thought you were worth it, buy a bottle of lemonade if you were lucky, and that was the drink. You made your fun, and it was all very, very nice and easy. But we had good times.
Could you tell us about Cahir House Hotel?
Cahir House was very, very important in the town of Cahir. It was known countrywide and nearly worldwide. It was run by a very eminent lady called Miss Eileen McCool, who was a very handsome woman and very efficient and really knew her business, you know. But she ran a wonderful hotel. It was magnificent, inside, outside, gardens, lovely, the best of mahogany furniture and beautiful mirrors and beautiful food. And anybody who was anybody in Ireland, passing from Dublin to Cork, including Mr. Eamon de Valera and I think Sean T. O'Kelly, the President of Ireland, people like that, you know, Cork to Dublin, Dublin to Cork. It was a big journey in those days, and they all stopped in Cahir, and the red carpet would be out and she'd greet the President, and we'd be all standing goggle-eyed to see what was going on, you know. But it was a beautiful hotel, and it was really very, there was Governor Dempsey, who was an American. He actually was born in Cahir way back, and he came back to Cahir a few times as well, and there was a lot of entertainment went on, and it was always in Cahir House, you know. So it was a lovely, lovely hotel.
Did women go to pubs?
Oh no, very definitely not. If you went into the pub, first of all the publican would have a heart attack. He wouldn't know what to do with you. So, no, never went to pubs. You never went inside the door. You wouldn't know what to do in there. It was just for men, and that was it, you know. If you had to go in to find your dad or someone, you'd be so embarrassed to have to walk into a pub, and people would all stop and look at you. What were you doing there? You know? It was a different age. There was no ladies drinking, or if there were, they weren't going to the public houses to drink, you know. So no, there was no ladies in pubs in those days.
Tell us about the fair which took place in Cahir every month.
The fair was very important for farmers. There was no mart in those days, so the farmers brought their cattle and their sheep to town. So they came very early in the morning to get the best spots, which were around the square. So all the shopkeepers had to put barricades, or you'd have sheep in your hall door. So you had to put barricades outside your shop front. And then the whole street, there was no traffic, there was no cars. I don't know where they went, but they weren't there, I suppose. But it would be going on from 7 o'clock in the morning till probably 1 or 2, and they'd be all doing deals, and then somebody else would come along to do another deal, and they'd slap one another's hands when the deal was done, and then they'd go to the pub to celebrate, and hopefully they'd be happy. They'd be going home empty-handed, or if they didn't sell, they'd have to go home earlier and bring home what they didn't sell. But it was a very, very lively day in Cahir. When we went to school, we had to walk through all the muck and the cow dung, and being terrified of getting a swish of a tail going out to school, and avoid all the gunk on the ground. But it was a very busy day, and kept business going.
Can you tell me about the weekly market in Cahir?
Then on a Friday we had a farmers, like today's farmers market, but not as organised, I suppose, where the farmers' wives brought in their produce, and they sold everything from eggs and chickens, and at Christmas time then you had the turkeys and the geese, and they sold holly, and all sorts of produce, you know, that bacon and vegetables, loads of vegetables and stuff. There weren't the restrictions there then as there are now. You could sell anything, you know, so that was set up around the square as well. It was a really busy day. The shops would be really busy that day. People would be all, when they'd sell their produce, they'd all go shopping, and they'd treat themselves to lots of things. But again, it was a great day for the town. It was a busy town in those days, not anything like it is today. It was a very, very lively town with lots of activities going on, lots of businesses.
What was Christmas like for you?
It was very frugal in comparison to today's world. You know, we were relatively well off in today's, but you didn't get piles of presents. You got one present, and the big treat was it was just coming after the war. During the war there was no fruit, and the oranges, we didn't know what an orange was, or a banana or anything like that. We never saw them, you know, until after the war, and it was such an exciting thing to get an orange or a banana or stuff like that, you know. But the toys and things were very simple. You got a doll, or what else? You get your stocking full of, as I said, if you got an orange in it and a few bits of chocolate, and, you know, there was none of the luxuries that are there today. You got one toy, and you probably got something new to wear, and that would be kind of it. And then the Christmas dinner was major, of course, because turkey and ham then was such a treat. You'd be hungry from the time you get up. The smell of the turkey cooking up was just something else, you know. And a big treat was to get a bottle of orange or a bottle of lemonade with your dinner. They were huge treats. So, then we went to Christmas Eve. Then, when you got to a certain age, you were allowed to go to midnight mass, and that was a very important thing. You had to be fasting then from 9 o'clock. I think it was 9 o'clock for midnight mass, and it was very strict, just fasting. When you went to morning mass, you had to be fasting from the night before. Midnight mass was always lovely, apart from a few minor incidents when you'd have people deciding to, after having a few drinks in the pub, that they'd go to mass and they might be singing not with the choir, but singing independently, and would have to be politely removed. So,
What was rationing like during the war?
it was horrible. It was really miserable in houses. We all got our little piece of, got a quarter pound of butter or something like that now, and then you get maybe 2 ounces of sugar for the week and 2 ounces of tea, and everybody had their own little, dare you take a bit of anybody else's, you know. But things were really, really tight. Now if you hadn't, like we had relations in the country, with farming relations, they were very good. You get eggs and vegetables and potatoes and stuff when you'd visit, and they'd often have killed chickens and pigs and made black puddings. I remember my mother making black puddings in the country from pig's blood and all sorts of things, this big bucket of most beautiful tasting but horrible looking thing. But they were very, and the bread was horrible. We had this rough, ugly brown bread for years. Like when we got to white bread, we thought was beautiful again. And there was no, jam was rotten, you know. There was no taste or flavour of anything, and you just, unless somebody was, you know, if your mother was able to bake and stuff, you had a bit of a treat now and again. But it was very, very, you know, there was no bit of luxury about anything, and everybody watched. And you couldn't, if you put all your butter on a slice of toast, you'd have nothing for the next day maybe.
What about the chocolate and sweets?
Oh, the chocolate was a huge treat. Chocolate came back slowly into the shops, and if you were a customer, then you'd be looked after. And we had our neighbour who was Babs, Sampson was her name. We all called her Auntie Babs, and as we were all neighbours' children, we'd always be told when the chocolate was in, so we'd arrive along with our 2 peas, and she'd sneak the bar of chocolate over the counter or under the counter, and we thought you were in heaven eating this bar of chocolate. They were really, really, you know, you might get 1 bar, you might get another bar for 3 weeks, you know. There was no such thing as piled it up. And then biscuits were another thing, that there was no such thing. And then suddenly we had coconut creams, to my that's the ones I remember most. Absolutely exotic they sounded and tasted. There was a lot of things, you know, recycling the tea, you know, drying it out and reusing it again. It would be horrible. I lived in a coffee house. My dad, been in America for years, he had coffee every morning for breakfast. So 2 of his children grew up. My brother and I, we always had coffee. We never drank tea. My 2 sisters had the tea, so we had coffee for breakfast every morning, which was unusual in those days. And they used to get it. Mulcahy's had a big shop where Fleury's is today, wholesale retail, and they used to grind the coffee, and the special coffee used to be delivered. So my father, so we all had coffee for breakfast. That was a luxury. But then you hadn't much sugar to put in it, which made it a bit difficult. But we used to compromise with something else. I don't know what. But yes, they were, compared to today, where we have so much luxury. It's different.